I'm Greg Howe. I work with Intervarsity Christian Fellowship. I'm a vice president and director of campus engagement, and that involves two major things, one of which is campus access, where an increasing number of universities are telling Intervarsity, we won't recognize you on campus because you are so discriminatory as to require your leaders to be Christians. That discriminates against everybody else, and we've pointed out, well, this just doesn't make sense. Of course, who else would you expect to lead the Bible studies and the prayer meetings and the worship times, except for people who actually believe this? But as we've faced that situation, I think it's forced me to embrace the university as my neighbor in a new way. So it's easy to love students and faculty and administrators abstractly, right? Because students are at the most formative period of their lives where they're making the decisions that will shape the trajectory of their life. And so you want to love them and help them meet Jesus. Faculty members are literally coming up with the ideas and the processes that shape our economies, our businesses, our governments, our thoughts. And so it's easy to love them because they have such a huge influence in the ways that we live. But when you're in conflict with people, right, when the university is actually saying, we don't want you here on campus because you're so exclusive as to demand your leaders be Christian, I had to try to learn, how do you love a neighbor that has no interest in being my neighbor? And how do you love a neighbor that's rejecting you? And it's been difficult. It's easy to fall back on narratives that are popular in religious culture, right? It's an evil culture out there. There's this conspiracy against you. The world's just getting worse and worse. And I think part of the discipline of being a neighbor to a university that rejects you is to say, even though you reject me, even though you may caricature me as a hate monger, as a narrow-minded, backward, superstitious oppressor, I'm going to choose to love the people who hate me. And for me, as a person who's done a lot of media around these issues and who interacts with administration frequently, that's meant when I speak to the media, I always speak well of the university and try to assume they're acting nobly and for good reasons. So I often say to reporters, particularly in conservative media, I think they're motivated by really admirable goals of making the university safe. And I think by speaking well of them and respectfully of them, I'm trying to be a good neighbor to them, even if they're rejecting me. I think it means in my face-to-face interactions with them, I seek their best. So my goal is not to embarrass or shame them or humiliate them, or even be angry or oppositional to them, but to ask in that interaction, how does the grace and the love of God be demonstrated in the situation while I still speak truth, to say, I think the policy you're pursuing is flawed, I think it's wrong-headed, I think it's actually damaging to people. And I think the greatest tool in helping think about what does it mean to love my neighbor, especially a neighbor who doesn't love me and is actually out to eliminate me as a neighbor, is to actually remember this is precisely what Jesus did. Right? Jesus entered the world and chose to love people who, as Paul describes in Ephesians, were his enemies, were in active rebellion against him. And so it's been pretty critical for me in terms of what does it mean to love my neighbor on campus, to remember Jesus and say, if he could love people who actually nailed him to a cross and pray for the Father's forgiveness of them, how much more so in a small thing like campus access? Can I adopt the same posture and say, Father, you love these people, so forgive them the damage that they're doing, and then how do we be redemptive in this place?